are the custodians of our forests, coasts, grasslands, and deserts. Indigenous people have safeguarded their lands for centuries, protecting biodiversity across the planet. Often marginalized, these communities play a key role in caring for the earth and its diminishing resources. Let's meet some of them today. Hello and welcome to Eco India. I'm Sanuta Raghu. Across the globe, many tribal communities have been dispossessed and deprived of the resources on which they depend for survival. Here in India, one such group was long ago evicted from its ancestral land in West Bengal. Activists believe that helping these tribes people gain self-sufficiency is also a win for the environment.
Brooms are a ubiquitous tool in Indian households. The Sabar tribe in West Bengal traditionally makes theirs from bamboo. These are more durable than common grass brooms and are used to sweep fields, sheds, and the floors of mud houses caked in cow dung. 50-year-old Sabitri Sabar learnt the craft of broom making early in life. Like other Sabar women, her livelihood depends on it.
If we take 10 brooms to the market, we'll sell at least 5 of them. That money will keep my household running for a couple of days.
The Sabar are one of some 700 tribes in India who have faced discrimination since British colonial rule, when they were branded savages and criminal by birth. For decades, their lives remained mired in stigma.
If somebody was pickpocketed, people would say the Sabars did it. It's always the Sabars who were blamed. It's the Sabars who did it. The Sabars stole it.
Prejudice is not all the Sabars have suffered from. They've been struggling to survive since they were evicted from their ancestral territory when forest lands were nationalized in the 1960s. That deprived them of their livelihoods and led to starvation.
It's the disease of development and the disease of globalization that has been the true violence against the tribes. So the story of the tribals of India is very, very multiple, very complex. But for the future, I would say indigenous people all over the world have to be the teachers. We got to learn from them. And people who still want to call them backward, who still want to call them all the names of cultural arrogance and colonialism, will be the losers.
For more than a century, the Sabars were the losers. Over time, some did regain land to cultivate for farming, but it wasn't enough to sustain the community. A local collective formed to help the Sabars. It found an income-generating solution that draws on their indigenous knowledge.
Sabars have a unique skill of using date leaves and grass to make items that they can use at home. To make these products saleable in the market, we gave them designs and got external trainers. The Sabars were even better at the work than the trainers because it's their traditional craft. To ensure the identity of the Sabars wouldn't be lost, we named these crafts Sabar handicrafts.
Trilochan Sabar normally plays the dhol for a living, a double-barrel drum that's a feature of Bengali celebrations. But his income from performances dried up when the pandemic hit. Today, he belongs to a group of some 400 tribal families who earn their living from broom making.
In a week, we earn between 500 to 700 rupees from selling our bamboo brooms.
Since 2020, the Community Collective has been providing families with capital to help kickstart their broom-making business. The raw material is bamboo. In kitchen gardens, the Sabar grow bamboo seedlings, which they receive from the collective to ensure sustainable production. The new shoots replace the plants that are cut down for broom production. Bamboo matures faster than other trees. As a result, it can absorb up to 4 times more climate-threatening carbon dioxide. Its fast-growing feature also means stocks are quickly replenished. With their bamboo broom business, the Sabar have succeeded in establishing a small-scale circular economy. They use natural resources without destroying nature itself.
They have never seen themselves as separate from the earth, and they haven't seen the earth as dead matter, as inert matter to be exploited. We have to overcome fossil fuels. The indigenous people can teach us how to live in a biodiversity economy. The broom is one example.
Indigenous knowledge passed down through generations has come to the rescue of the Sabar tribe, helping them survive even during the pandemic. But as importantly, it's helped the community regain some of its lost confidence.
There's less discrimination against the Sabars because of this broom-making program. We see that the Sabar girls go to the market to sell the brooms themselves. That helps boost their self-confidence, which in turn has been noticed by others who think these people aren't thieves. They come to sell brooms in the market.
By producing goods valued outside of their tribe, the Sabar have earned respect beyond the confines of their community. At the same time, they're living proof that indigenous knowledge harbors the keys to living a sustainable life in harmony with nature.
Now, Europe is also home to an indigenous people that has faced discrimination and lost the rights to their ancestral land. The Sami have herded reindeer across northern Scandinavia and Russia's Kola Peninsula for millennia. Their landmark victory in Sweden's courts could serve as an international precedent for other groups fighting to reclaim their territories.
It looks like a winter wonderland, Sweden's far north. So far north, it was once believed to be the end of the world. The ground is barren, the spruce small. Snow covers the ground most of the year. But the Giljas forest is more than a scenic landscape. It's home to indigenous reindeer herders, the Sami, a people with ancient ties to the land. Matti Berg has lived in this wilderness all his life. His connection to the forest is so deep, he feels almost physical pain in a big city. It's a sensation he had to endure repeatedly as he spearheaded a decade-long battle in Sweden's courts over land rights. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court, where the Sami won an unexpected victory. The judges handed them exclusive control over who can hunt and fish on their territory. Everyone should be happy. The ruling was proof that even a normal person can take a stand against the state. But not everyone was happy. Since the landmark ruling in 2020, Matti Berg has received angry calls from hunters who see it as an infringement on their own rights. Hunting and fishing are the things people up here are passionate about. Many hunters are afraid that we Sami will stop them from entering the forests. We won't, but we put the reindeer first. Then come the Sami, and then the others. Public anger is sometimes also directed at the reindeer and their enormous space requirements. We get a taste of this ourselves as we make our way through Sami territory. Reindeer can bring traffic to a standstill, even on the main trunk road. There are some 300,000 reindeer in Sweden. Only the Sami are allowed to own them. Lars Ola Januk is feeding his one-year-old calves. Reindeer are very hardy animals, but without an extra daily helping of moss and lichen, they wouldn't make it through the winter. The snow cover is icy, the plants underneath inaccessible. Lars Ola Januk heads the Sami cooperative Jokkmokk. He tells us he was recently accosted by a car while herding reindeer into another enclosure. From 20 meters away, the driver shouted, "If you let your reindeer out here, we'll shoot them." I thought to myself, whoa, these guys are really aggressive. And he said, if I meet one of you reindeer herders out alone in the forest, I'll shoot you too. That really scared me. Poaching is not uncommon. Reindeer herders receive some compensation, but that doesn't stop the harassment. We're accustomed to racism. My father was subjected to a lot of verbal abuse, especially near the big mines in Kiruna and Gällivare. But since the verdict, we've been targeted with even more hatred. At issue are not just the reindeer and their grazing grounds. The Sami's traditional lands lie in a region rich in resources, and those resources are in hot demand. But it's the state, and not the Sami, that decides on who gets mining rights. Ore, forests, wind and water power, timber, it's all here. The state would like to exploit it all. For Matti Berg, the wind turbines not far from his house, on an old slag heap, are a nuisance, an industrial intrusion that disturbs nature's calm and makes the reindeer nervous. The fight for mineral resources on the Sami's ancestral lands has only just begun. Matti Berg's people hope their court victory will bolster their claim to full control of their traditional territory.
Indigenous people have a wealth of ancient knowledge about their environments. It can be harnessed to cope with modern-day challenges like food security and climate change. For our next report, we venture over to Latin America, where traditional knowledge passed down through generations is being used to protect biodiversity and an entire nation's food heritage.
Josefina Lema is a farmer and traditional healer in her village. Corn and corn seeds are a staple here and vital for life in her community. She conducts a ceremony to thank Pachamama, or Mother Earth, for her bounty. For indigenous communities here in rural Ecuador, understanding seeds and different seed varieties is essential for survival. But the old varieties are fast disappearing, pushed aside by modern industrial alternatives. 75% of traditional seed varieties and native plant species have already been lost. In the Ecuadorian capital, Quito, a collective is working to preserve native plants and crops. They've already saved 3,000 seed varieties, which they now make available to farmers all over the country. Javier Carrera set up the network 18 years ago, when he realized that industrial seed varieties were taking over.
The problem with industrial seeds is that they've been bred intensively to ensure they can withstand the use of agrochemicals. They're not designed for natural farming methods and have no genetic diversity in themselves. So the seeds can't adapt to different places and conditions.
All the seed varieties here in the store are free of disease and plant debris. They're stored without use of chemicals. With every seed they pass on, Javier Carrera and his team are also helping to preserve a traditional way of life, ensuring valuable expertise is not lost.
The seeds have an identity. They're part of our culture. If someone gives me a seed, but I don't know what it is or what I can do with it, it's worthless to me. So passing on information about the seeds is equally important.
One of the goals of the network is to put these old varieties back on the menu. Chef Juan Sebastian Perez is preparing a chocolate drink made of cocoa beans and a local fruit known as taxo. For 4 years now, his restaurant, Quito, has served dishes made exclusively with natural ingredients, including traditional fruits and crop varieties.
Working with old seed varieties also means that you're promoting fair trade, which improves people's lives, and you're helping the environment too. And above all, it gives you lots of freedom to conjure up a different menu every day based on what is currently available and what's in season.
The Seed Guardians Network wants to persuade farmers to adopt ecological methods and work with old seed varieties. They also give workshops. This one here is all about permaculture. Javier Carrera explains how best to maintain the soil so that it remains fertile and retains its natural balance of nutrients.
The tomato is native to Ecuador. Potatoes come from the Andes, whereas lentils come from Asia, right over here somewhere.
Every sort of seed has its own story, which is very important to the Seed Guardians. Alejandro Solano began growing cacao 12 years ago. First, he visited the farmers in the local area. He discovered more than 30 different varieties of cacao. Every cocoa bean can be planted to grow a new tree, but this one will be turned into chocolate.
What I love most is the rich variety that we have here. You can harvest throughout the entire year. If you have a monoculture, you only have one harvest. But here, there's cacao that you harvest when it's in flower. One ripens only in summer, the other is better in the wet season.
Many of these cacao varieties were on the edge of extinction until Alejandro and his team began growing them again. By preserving old varieties, they've also helped to preserve and renew the rainforest. For Josefina Lema from the indigenous Quechua community, this type of farming is nothing new. 22 different seed varieties have been sown in this field alone. She loves the many different types of corn.
We have all the colors here: white, black, red, yellow, purple. All these corn varieties are there for us, to nourish us.
By defending their natural heritage, indigenous people protect habitats that have sustained them for hundreds, even thousands of years. Here in India, one tribesman is fighting to save a biodiversity hotspot near Delhi that's in danger of being carved up by developers.
It's hard to believe that this lush wilderness called the Mangarbani Hill Forest lies within an hour's drive of the world's most polluted capital. One of the forest's tribal residents fights hard each day to protect this green jewel.
I have been attached to this forest ever since I was a little boy. It could be because I am from the Mangar community, because I was a little different from the other kids due to my physical disability.
Because of my physical
At the age where all the other children were running around and playing, I would spend all my time with the community elders. Whatever the reason, it is my belief that this forest should be nurtured and protected.
The 4,000-acre Mangar forest is an oasis which lies in the national capital region, flanked by New Delhi on one side and its affluent suburbs of Gurgaon and Faridabad on the other. Sunil Harsana believes he is one of the voices of this highly biodiverse patch of green. It lies in the valley of the Aravalli Mountains and is a tropical dry forest. It is home to more than 30 native tree species and is buzzing with wildlife. Part of this rich land is a relic, a sacred grove which generations of Harsana's community has been trying to protect. The centuries-old treasure reflects the community's reverence for the ancient forest and the spirit which is said to watch over it.
हर किसी का एक देवता होता है कि भाई हमारा ये हमारा
As different people worship different gods, we worship Gudaria Baba. He is the protector of Mangar Bani.
किया और उनको मानने वाले जो हैं वो
For all of us who follow him, damaging the Mangar Bani is like going against him
तो वो उसके लिए
and his rule.
मतलब एक तरह से उनका जो रूल है उसको ब्रेक करने जैसा है.
But unlike just a generation ago, Mangar Bani is shrinking. Parts are being slowly sold, mined, or dug up, and the water table has become almost entirely exposed.
सबसे मेन थ्रेट मेरी नज़र में है
The biggest threat today is encroachment, because when that happens, even if it is illegal, an entire patch of forest is destroyed forever. Once encroachers occupy forest land, they bide their time by staying put and doing something or the other. As a result, they do not allow forests to grow. If they decide to build something on that land, then there is no hope at all that the patch of land will ever be reforested again.
तो फिर तो आप कोई मतलब ही नहीं कि जंगल वहाँ पे वापस आ जाए.
They have installed netted barricades on one side and built this gate here.
In the 1980s, Mangar's prime location near Delhi caught the eyes of real estate developers. Their keen interest led to rampant privatization of much of the forest. Where land was once considered village commons of forest dwellers like Harsana's ancestors, it was bought from them for as low as 500 rupees or 65 euros per acre. Harsana's activism led him to meet land rights experts like Chetan Agarwal, who has studied the forest for years. Their relationship yielded a small victory in 2014 when the state government identified almost 700 acres of the sacred grove and over 1,000 acres of surrounding forest as a no-construction zone. But the future of Mangar's conservation depends on a simple question. Does the government even consider Mangar a forest?
The land is recorded as a Gair Mumkin Pahad. Gair Mumkin refers to whether it can be used for agriculture or not. Because Haryana has not done the exercise to identify areas as per dictionary meaning, so therefore this area is still waiting formal identification as a, everyone knows it's a forest, government recognizes it in common speak that it's Mangar Bani, but they don't, they need to make that list, they need to take that last step and make a list of forest as per dictionary meaning.
In search of better livelihoods, most of the Mangar community has taken up jobs in the nearby urban sprawl, rendering the forest useless to them. They move to cities to do mostly menial jobs and almost never return to their forest-dwelling ways.
It is almost impossible to engage with the community's elders directly nowadays. Instead, I shifted my focus to the next generation. These are children who would be decision makers in the next 10 to 15 years. I wanted to reconnect them to the forest.
Harsana's mission manifested itself into an informal eco-club in 2015, one that has brought together more than 20 children from Mangar villages, whom Harsana mentors towards developing a scientific understanding of Mangar Bani.
Can you tell us the names of some birds?
Scientific name. Nightjar, Indian pita, pied cuckoo, jungle babbler जो ये बोल रही है.
As the children learn to build small check dams to prevent soil erosion or learn to record seasonal changes, Harsana hopes they develop a will to protect Mangar Bani.
I'm fighting for the forest because this work is my passion. I'm not doing it to appease people living in Delhi or Gurgaon. It is the duty of every person to protect forests, and I'm simply fulfilling my responsibility.
Harsana's personal fight has turned political, which might be the only way to save one of the last remaining green lungs around one of India's most polluted regions.
The tussle between displacement of the old and development of the new is not something we can wish away. It would be naive to think that we can. I hope today's episode has highlighted the need for a balance between indigenous communities and modern society. I'll see you again next week with many more such thought-provoking stories. Until then, goodbye.